Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the CEO School podcast. I'm your host, Suneera Madhani, and today we are going to have such an incredible conversation that you do not want to miss out on. We are with Nathalie Jorge, who is an award-winning entrepreneur and healthcare innovator with 25 plus years leading mission-driven ventures across healthcare, education, technology, and all the things as CEO of Companion Health. Nathalie is redefining preventative healthcare. And so this conversation today is all about merging conventional and functional medicine to help you thrive as a busy CEO. I know that our health as women, sometimes we put on the last priority. But after today's episode, when you're going to be done listening to it, I hope you're going to learn something about how we can really take control of our health like we do for our wealth. I'm so excited to have Nathalie here today because she's been recognized as Charlotte's 40 over 40. She combines so much acumen and clinical knowledge, as well as just true heart in why she does what she does. And so I'm so excited to have this such meaningful conversation with all of you. Nathalie, welcome to CEO School.
Thank you so much, Suneera. I am looking forward to diving in on all things health.
I am so excited because we've been catching up and this conversation is so important. It's one of the things that even on the show, sometimes like when I think about all of the entrepreneurs that we've had on the show, we talk about wealth, we talk about business scaling, and we have lifestyle conversations, but we really don't deep dive into health when truly none of it actually matters if we don't have our health.
I couldn't agree more. We know from an early age that if we start investing in our retirement accounts, that interest will compound over time and we will have this big nest egg when we retire that we'll want to spend. But how many of us think about on a day-to-day basis whether we're adding credits to our health or debits to our health? And disease is often decades in the making. So symptoms don't actually show up for many, 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 many years down the road. They say Alzheimer's can be 2-3 decades before you actually start seeing the symptoms. So the things that we do on a day-to-day basis for our health, they really matter.
That analogy really just sat with me deep because when you said credits and debits, I feel like I get really comfortable with that here. And you're right. When you think about health, it is a retirement account. You can't just wake up one day and be like, oh, now I have the nest egg that I'm looking for. You have to be putting in those deposits. And we do know that it is a compounding effect. And so that really just hit home for me. And I think it's really going to hit home for our listeners today. But before we get into, because we're going to talk all things about integrative medicine, functional medicine, what we need to be doing as women today, what are the most simple things that we can be doing to compound our health forward. But before we get into that, I just want to ask you, how did you even get into this space? Tell me a little bit about your background and your story.
Well, it's very personal. Many, many years ago, when our oldest, who is now 24, was 6, started having all these strange vomiting symptoms. And my husband and I couldn't figure out what was going on. And we took her to a pediatrician. And the pediatrician said, it's attention getting. And as a mother hen, I said, that's not what's going on. There's something more going on. And
she was vomiting to get attention?
That she was vomiting to get attention. And we just knew that wasn't the case. This is not this kid isn't like that. And so we went to a gastroenterologist. They did like barium studies and they couldn't find anything. My husband and business partner is a really, really good clinician and he's a really great research scientist. And he did the deep dive and figured out what was going on. It was something called cyclic vomiting syndrome. And what we now know, it's a precursor to migraines. So I started reading everything that I could get my hands on now that we had a diagnosis and learned that the foods that we eat, stress, toxins in our environment, it just started going down this rabbit hole and understanding that there were a lot of different factors that were potentially contributing to this vomiting. And as we started to make changes to her diet, and she wore sunglasses because even positive things like sunlight can be triggering, she started to get better. Mm-hmm. And in that process, we as a family started to get healthier. I grew up in New Orleans. I did not eat the healthiest. I did not live the healthiest lifestyle. So it was mind-blowing to me that these little changes that we started to implement became big changes and they compounded to have not only that positive impact on her health, but the way we lived our lives. And once you know what you know, you can't go back. And so fast forward to 2019, My husband had been in many different traditional medical settings. He'd worked for the 2 major hospital systems in Charlotte, and he'd also worked in a private practice, but doing traditional standard of care medicine. That is just insurance-based medicine.
Conventional medicine.
Conventional medicine. And it's very volume driven. He was seeing patients every 5-7 minutes.
Wow.
So he'd see up to 35 individuals a day. Well, along the way, with all his background in lifestyle and functional medicine, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit, he just felt at odds and burnt out. And I thought, what a tragedy it would be with all the wisdom we've accumulated, not just personally, but professionally, that he would exit the medical field because he was so burnt out. And I said, you know what? We said there'd not be 2 entrepreneurs in the house at the same time, but let's talk about really doing this. And it was a really important conversation to have because our marriage comes first, and working together as a couple is not easy.
No.
And we said, we're going to put our marriage first, but if we're going to do this, let's do it together. We're very, very oriented on taking care of human beings. And that's what's been lost in our healthcare system. We don't feel like human beings often. We've lost trust in healthcare, and we need to find a way to get back to trusting. There are really great medical professionals out there. The system is not supporting that.
Thank you for sharing your story. And I think, I definitely can really resonate with this. And I think a lot of us here individually, personally, as moms, also can relate to this. The doctor-patient interaction, the deep understanding of questions or history, like it has been lacking. We've all felt dismissed by a healthcare professional. I can almost say almost all of us have felt dismissed by a healthcare professional. Sometimes, it's not even the integrity of the doctor. It's just the systems that are designed around it. And we have so many friends that are just incredible doctors that work for some of the largest hospitals here in Orlando. And, they are like, the burnout rate is so real. And it's like, how do you put that much pressure on the person that's actually supposed to be taking care of us or performing surgeries or doing the most important work while they are in this like severe container as well? So the healthcare system, it's been a profit-based system for a really long time. And that's the conventional side of medicine. But most of the doctors, and you can speak to your husband and the doctor friends that I have, like they started in medicine and spent half of their lives, dedicated to becoming the doctor that they are. That the more amount of time than we've ever spent in any profession, the amount of time that it takes to become a doctor, they're doing it. Their why is so strong to serve the human being. And that's been taken, that's what's missing.
100%. I often say it's a calling. Carlos got into medicine because he really wants to help human beings.
Yeah.
That's his strength, his superpower. And to your point, the system does not currently, there's so many misaligned incentives. And I want to sort of talk a little bit about the conventional medicine piece, because conventional medicine, even though it's tied to insurance company, is a little bit different than just being insurance-based. Conventional medicine is what we typically think of as allopathic medicine. It's acute care management. So it's really great at prescriptions and procedures. So if you need a surgery, you need conventional medicine. And then functional medicine, which is something that we do as part of our practice, is really root cause medicine, is understanding a lot of the disease we're seeing right now is chronic disease. It's not the stuff that just happens when you fall off your bike and you need to go get stitches, or you get a bad cold and you need some medicine or something like that. Yeah. That's what conventional medicine really excels at. Where functional medicine comes in is understanding, why do we fall out of health and how do we get back to it? And that could be many, many, many years in the making. It could be because you were exposed to a toxin when you were little. It could be because you haven't done some of the basics that we're going to probably touch upon in terms of eating well, sleeping well, managing stress, which is a biggie right now, Suneera. Stress, the level of stress that we're all operating under, it's been normalized. It's insane. And our central nervous systems are not designed to live in a world that is highly disconnected and highly unpredictable. We were tribal people. We like to live in community, and we knew what our day was going to entail. And so a lot of what we are seeing in terms of the chronic disease realm is driven by this confluence of all these different things that on a day-to-day basis, we're not taking care of. And those basics There's no incentive in the hospital systems and in the insurance systems because they're free. Nobody's going to make money off of saying, Suneera, we're going to help you learn how to
sleep better,
do a bedtime routine such that you start to wind down. And so there's a lot of confusion out there and a lot of misaligned incentives on the financial front.
I really appreciate you sharing kind of the difference between conventional and functional. And functional is the preventative portion of it. It's doing the basics. It's taking care of, inside out so that you don't need the acute treatments or the, solving for the problem when the problem happens. And even when you talk about stress, like I relate to this so much. I think we all relate to this. The level of stress that we're operating in, not only from just day-to-day world, even with the amount of information that's at us, world stress, like for the longest of time, everything's been happening in this world, but the amount of connectivity because of social media, because of our connected world, also causes, like we have the most amount of stress, not just from our work environments, which are crazy. Then we have the impossible standards in like family environment and, just life in general. Then we also have world that is like at our fingertips all day long. So we are chronically in stress mode, like from the moment that we get up to the moment that we go to sleep.
100%. One of the things that we do with all of our clients is they work in tandem with a medical provider and a health coach because we want to address all of those things, like help give them tools to understand how do we manage this stress. And sometimes that can look like doing a detox. What we consume digitally is as important to consider as what we consume nutritionally.
When you just said detox, I was literally thinking like a juice cleanse detox, but you're literally talking about a digital detox.
We're talking digital detox because we can spend hours and hours scrolling and it doesn't make us feel better. It actually amps our stress levels up. And the physiological impacts of stress are real. It does change our cortisol curves. And I like to say, I think everybody associates cortisol as the bad hormone. We need cortisol. We need cortisol to be able to get up in the morning. And so what can happen over time is our adrenals can go crazy and we don't spike cortisol in the morning like we should. And then we have this precipitous drop. So stress has a real impacts. And we see multiple different ways of, wired and tired and completely chronic fatigued. And so we do need to, as society, we need to think about how do we bring that centeredness back to our lives.
And how do we, right? So I know we were talking a lot about the basics. Could you share a little bit about what are the basics that we all know, but we need reminders on, and some of like the things that we can implement right away to decrease those cortisol levels?
Well, first is awareness.
Yeah.
So I think we've got this handy dandy computer in our pockets all the time that we're always looking at called the phone. And so certainly think about how present we are in our conversations with other folks during our meals, but everything is woven together.
Okay.
So we're going to talk a little bit about the 5 things that we focus on with our clients through the coaching programs that we do, and the providers reinforce this as well. We focus on nutrition. So what you eat affects your stress levels, believe it or not, because so much of our gut, it's actually related to our mental health. It's our second brain, our gut.
Yes.
That's what they call it.
Yeah.
And so we have all these, I think people have probably heard of the microbiome.
Yeah.
And the composition of the bacteria in our gut impact our moods. So we do need to focus on our nutrition because we want to give our guts all the chance they have to produce, like 95% of the serotonin is produced in our gut. So if our guts are a mess, we're not getting that. So nutrition is really a big one. Physical activity. We're humans. We need to move. If you're working all day and you don't take any kind of break from your desk, you're going to be exacerbating your stress levels. Getting outside. We are nature. We're not machines. So getting away from your desk every now and then and just taking 2 minutes outside. Our team regularly walks around the parking lot, just takes little breaks, and you just see us out there and milling about. Sleep is a biggie. I don't know about you, Suneera, but if I don't sleep well, the next day I'm craving carbs, I'm feeling on edge. I have much less resilience of anyone who's relating to me. I'm not able. So these are all contributory factors. Stress management, there's the traditional things that you hear a lot about, breath work, meditation. Those are all important. and we use those based on how they fit into your life. And then I'd also say relationships are really big. We focus on having a meal with someone and not having a phone out and just focusing on the connection and calling a friend, taking a walk with a friend. These are all stress mitigators. And there's not one single silver bullet. It's doing a lot of things and just taking baby steps. You can't do it all at once, but starting somewhere and over time can have real significant impacts on your life.
I mean, everything that you said, and you're so calm in saying it too. I'm like so locked in right now with you. I mean, these are all things we all know, right? Like we all know that these are the things that are important. You mentioned our food, our sleep, nature. I love that you said relationships. That was not what I would have like pegged on like the 5 healthcare pillar list. But it's so important connection because we are tribal creatures. And that is probably where I feel most at peace is at home or with my family or with my girls or with a friend. And that just makes complete sense. But also it's also sometimes like the highest stressor is actually the relationships that I carry sometimes cause the most amount of stress in my life as well. But I do love that the community element is really important because when you're going through it, and whatever it is, there's less stress if you're not alone.
I think there's a statistic out there that loneliness is the equivalent of smoking 14 cigarettes a day.
Oh my goodness. That is wild.
Isn't that wild? And so what we know, like some of the longest lived human beings, what is one of the fundamental elements that keeps them going? It's community. Mm-hmm. It's connection. And so it is something all of us need. Yes, I hear you. At times, relationships can cause a lot of stress, but that's the
right one.
That's everything has a wart, and that's the wart is like navigating through those. But
that's funny. I love that you said that. I also want to go back a little bit on some of the pillars. Like, are there some rules of that you have found now doing this for so many? Like for women. Let's talk to women in particular. You said the gut's important. We have a lot of talk right now on what we eat. I feel like it's always changing. Like, what's the new fad? And not that it's a fad, but like, okay, we're talking about protein a lot right now. Everyone's like, gotta get protein. What do you see as the needs of women when it comes to one of the pillars? Let's talk about food. Okay.
Well, I think protein is important. I think right now it's the marketing du jour. You see protein on everything.
Starbucks has protein on my phone now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What
is that? Egg white? I don't know what.
Cheerios has a Cheerios protein. So as far as protein is concerned, it's important. And you can get a lot of protein eating real food, not processed packaged food. You don't need a protein bar that often comes with a lot of sugars and I call them sciencey chemically ingredients. You can get it by eating a chicken breast or a tofu, or there's so many different ways to get at protein. What I really hit hard on is fiber. About 50% of the fiber needs that we have are being met daily. That's not true. Most people are getting enough protein. It's often the quality of the protein that's not so great. It's really the fiber that we're lacking, and the fiber is key to healthy gut bacteria. Our gut bacteria that are our good guys, I call them Team A. They love a lot of plant matter. And then the ones that are on Team B, those are the ones that are out to get you. You know what they love? Sugar. They thrive on sugar. So what we want to do is we want to stack the odds with Team A, give them all the good stuff. So broccoli, people will turn their nose up a lot at broccoli. And then I ask, why don't you like broccoli, let's say? And often it's how their mom or dad prepared it when they were little. There's so many vegetables out there. You don't have to eat broccoli, but broccoli is a super one to eat, is really understanding, do I not like the vegetable or do I not like how it was prepared? And maybe giving things another chance.
I think that, what you talked about, A players, is something we talk a lot about on the show. And so we do want a team in business of A players. And what you even said about why I actually picked on the food element was because of the gut portion of it. Because in business, I call it our 3 minds. We have like our analytical brain, and then we have our heart, and we have to listen to that too. But the gut is the most important part. And it's like the best part about us as women is we have such strong instincts and intuition and gut. And that is like part of my decision-making process as a CEO. and the food portion of it. That's why I kind of picked on that one in particular, because I wanted to think about what are the things that the gut needs. And how do you feel about supplements? So how do you feel about, prebiotics, probiotics, or what do you eat? So I want to know, like, what do you eat? Are you plant-based? Like, what are you doing?
I'm plant heavy. I eat pretty much everything. I do realize that I eat a lot more vegetables than most people. Mm-hmm. And so when I travel, I'm always stumped by how do I get enough vegetables into my diet. But like, for instance, yesterday on the plane, I made my own salad ahead of time and I brought it with me, and I front loaded and made sure I was going to get lots of good fiber.
I'm adding fiber to the KPI tracker now. Like, I for sure am. Yeah.
It is an amazing, amazing simple addition to just start over time. You don't want to like go all in on fiber. If you haven't been eating a ton of it, it can cause some bloating and some discomfort. If you're not fiber rich right now, just sort of ease in on that front. But one of the things that I think is really interesting about the gut as well is, as women, a lot of us go through hormonal changes, and some of us, myself included, are on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. And one of the things we know about, if you're taking some kind of exogenous hormone, you want to make sure that your gut is healthy so that you can actually clear and detox those hormones effectively. Mm-hmm. When we talk about functional medicine, and that would be where sort of this hormone replacement therapy tends to live, the bioidentical hormone replacement therapy tends to live, that it's real important to think about the whole system as working together and not just taking the endocrine system out separately from the gastro system, from the heart. And so understanding that we've got this amazing system that's always trying to protect us and keep us in good health. And so when we tweak one thing, we need to be thinking about how it's impacting the larger system around us.
I wanted to also pick on and ask about, most of our audience are high achieving women. What are some of the misconceptions? Because when you said the term health coach, I actually never thought about a health coach. We have all these advisors. And then, of course, there are specific pieces of medicine. So when you need a nutritionist or when you need, certain angles of it. But this is why I love doing the shows, because I get to learn every time. I've never thought about it as truly having a health coach. What are some misconceptions? And I can think of somebody that I feel like I probably want to ask, but what are some things that we don't know as like women, or some misconceptions that we have about functional medicine or about a health coach or about your industry?
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah,
there's so much misinformation and disinformation. I'll start with what is a health coach. Okay. And actually, I became certified as one when I was working on building this business with Carlos, laying the foundation. Because what we know, and you've said it yourself, like most of us know what we need to be doing to be healthier, but we don't do it. Why don't we actually eat better, sleep better? And so the idea when we started Companion Health was to make sure that we would pair our clients with a health coach and a provider. So a lot of the information that the provider was sharing and the prioritization could be supported by a coach, both in terms of accountability, but in education, to get at exactly what you're addressing. Is there is so much out there and we don't know how to sort through the noise. And do we take this supplement? And yes, we use supplements in our practice. There's a time and place for them, but they're supplements meant in addition to doing some of the core things that we all should be doing. The coach piece is really about, how do we say, where are you today? And how do we get you to where you want to go? Mm-hmm. And that can be, for someone, it can be someone who's a performance optimizer is very different from someone who currently is subsisting off of a lot of sodas and fast food. So we have a range. We meet people where they're at. And that's where the coach really comes in and supporting the provider to start to move the needle. And the outcomes we have are phenomenal. It takes time. Our clients may not see real strong results for years. But we work with some of the most complex folks on things like autoimmune disorders, cardiovascular disease, metabolic syndrome. And these things take time because they've often been years in the making until we really start to see the symptoms. So we start chipping away at what's going to help our individual clients by making these changes. You just don't go out and start running a marathon, Suneera. Yeah. I don't know about you. You got to start by walking, and then maybe you do a little jog for a few minutes and then you walk. And so it's really, the coach is there to help the client understand how to start to make those baby steps and then show up consistently. And so they'll meet with the coach every few weeks. And we also empower all our clients with a lot of additional information. So we share podcasts and we share books and we share how to go gluten-free if someone needs to go to gluten-free, or how to go dairy-free, because sometimes dairy is a real big source of inflammation in a human body. So we're not just saying, hey, do this. We're giving them the tools to actually be able to make those changes.
Yeah, I think that even one of the things that I would say probably that I think I'm healthy.
Yeah, we hear that all the time.
Right, like I'm healthy. And then when something's wrong, you're right, I go straight to the conventional because it's acute care. I'm like, okay, great. I feel healthy, but am I healthy? Like where do you start with someone who's like, I'm healthy, which is most of us will because we ignore it. But how do I know I need a health coach, or where do I begin?
It's a great question. And I think all of our clients, if we didn't just say this is part of what we offer, would naturally think they don't need a health coach. We have several who are quite resistant. Some don't do it, and we don't force it on them, that over time are just blown away and get it. It's one of those things that once you experience that level of support and education and meeting, providing you with recipes that are easy to prepare because you have 2 young kids that you can, you're a busy working woman and get it in the oven and it's a healthy dinner. Those are the kinds of things that we think about. Or you're traveling all the time. What can you do to get some movement in as you travel? Or how can you strategically plan you're going to be in X, Y, and Z to get groceries delivered, or a restaurant that does gluten-free? Like, these are things that a coach can do to really help make it easier for you to be successful in taking care of yourself.
I think that that's really awesome. And this is like the first time I'm like really mind blown around I know all the things, but it's great to have accountability because in business, that's also what we need. That's why we have trackers. That's why we have scorecards. That's why we have business coaches. That's why we have mentors, is accountability. This component is so important. And Nathalie, I learned so much about just kind of going back to the basics. Like, that is what we need. And that there are providers that truly care about why they began and they want to serve, and we need to find them. And how do we find you? What's next for you, for you? Can you take clients across the states, or is it that we have to find these providers within our home states? How does that work?
We do. We have folks fly to us. We're a very boutique-y, small practice. So I can't imagine that we're going to be able to handle everyone and anyone. We are more than happy to take on new clients. But I think more important, it is learning how to advocate for yourself through the system, doing your research. If you feel dismissed by a medical professional, to your point, trust your gut and look elsewhere. It is very hard to navigate through our current healthcare system. So you do have to be persistent. We actually do that on behalf of our clients, and we have a hard time doing it. And we're in the medical realm. There was a time when doctors would talk to each other and pick up the phone. I have watched my husband try to get a hold of someone in a major system to actually have a conversation about a client on an image that they've had done. And it's very, very, very tough. So I think certainly looking at, if you're able to, some concierge medical practices where you have more access to doctors who are not a part of the system, that is a really good starting point as well. And functional medicine practitioners, looking up at either A4M or IFM, or 2 different certifying boards. So if you can find folks who are in those medical professionals, trained in those
what did you call that again?
A4M and then IFM are 2 different functional medicine certifying boards.
Okay. We will be looking out for that. Nathalie, thank you so much for educating us, spending the time, and reminding us that our health is our wealth.
100%.
Thank you so much for being here. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, tag us, share this with a woman that needs to hear this, because I think that this conversation is so critical, so important. We all need these reminders. Leave us a review below. We want to know what you want to hear about. Tag us on Instagram. I'll be sharing everything that Nathalie shared in our show notes as well, so you can have all the resources right at your fingertips. I can't wait to see you guys on the next episode of CEO School. Bye, guys.